Okay, so like everyone listening has probably at some point thought about how to like really get more out of their work life. You know what I mean? Like not just a job, but something that feels fulfilling.
Totally. And it can feel so overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even start?
Exactly. So that's exactly what we're going to dive into today, using this book as our guide. It's called Idea Atia.
Catchy title.
Yeah, it boils down to this framework of 4 key principles:
Right.
identity, direction, engagement, and authenticity, or IDEA for short. Think of it like a roadmap to like figure out what really matters to you professionally and build a career around that.
Exactly. Like, ditch the shoulds and find what actually makes you tick, you know?
Right. So we'll be like unpacking the main ideas from this book and see how this IDEA framework can help us create more fulfilling work lives.
And the coolest thing is that this framework comes from this guy, Dr. Gary Crotaz. He's got this seriously impressive background. Like, he's been a medical doctor, a scientist, a strategy consultant, a senior business leader, and wait for it, a professional ballroom dancer.
Whoa, that's a lot of hats. No wonder he knows a thing or two about navigating career changes.
Right. This book isn't just theory. It's like him laying out what he's learned through all these major shifts in his own life and how he achieved some pretty ambitious goals.
And now he coaches people all over the world, helping them figure out their strengths and how to like really rock their careers. He's based in the UK, lives with his wife and their dogs. You can find out more about him at GaryCrotazCom.com. And he's on Instagram too, at Gary Crotaz.
Oh, and we can't forget the translator who brought this book to a wider audience, Huang Yiran. Her background in foreign languages and journalism is pretty impressive. Plus, she's got all these recent translations in different genres, like just making sure these important ideas reach as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's so important. And, this book has gotten praise from tons of coaches and authors. They all highlight how it's like a systematic way to look inward, set meaningful goals, and make a concrete plan for career transitions. It's like finally figuring out how to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah, there are some big names too, like Buji, who's this awesome workplace career coach. She talks about how this book helps you face your true self, which can be scary, but also really liberating.
Right. And there's Henry Wen, a personal branding coach, who loves how the book digs deep into your why, like what really drives you. And then there's Chu Yilin, who's a visual thinking coach, How Zhu Lai, who's a venture capital partner, Iroe K, the author and TMBA co-founder who's all about taking action.
Yeah.
And even Diane Futi's Zuzobian Jackie, like it's clear this book has resonated with a lot of people.
Totally. And what's really interesting is how a lot of them mention the book's like 6-week structure. It's not a quick fix. It's a deliberate process of self-reflection and planning. It's like a journey.
And you really feel that personal touch, too.
Yeah.
Like, the book is dedicated to Dr. Crotaz's wife, Midre, his dogs, and his parents. Recognizing their support throughout his journey, he also shouts out his editors, publishers, and all these people who inspired him, including some big names in the ballroom dancing world, like David and Olga Cacciari and the famous Team Diablo.
Which actually reminds me of something Dr. Crotaz talks about in the book, this idea of understanding your strengths. It's a big part of the identity principle in the IDEA framework.
Yeah.
He introduces this assessment tool called Clifton Strengths. It was developed by Donald Clifton, and it's basically this widely used way to pinpoint your natural talent.
And it's not just some random quiz either.
Yeah.
Like 90% of Fortune 500 companies have reportedly used it, and over 25 million people globally have taken it.
Yeah, it's pretty legit. Dr. Crotaz uses it a lot in his coaching practice, and it's part of the first week of his IDEA program. He mentions that in 2021, the full report cost around 50 British pounds, and the top 5 report was about 20. But he makes it clear that he doesn't get any commission if you take the assessment.
Oh, that's good to know. And even if you don't want to do the assessment, he says the book has other ways to help you uncover your strengths.
So now let's get to the heart of it, the IDEA framework itself. As Dr. Crotaz explains, it's this way of thinking built on those 4 key principles: identity, direction, engagement, and authenticity.
Right. Like, who are you at your core professionally? Where are you headed? How do you get there? And is it all aligned with what truly matters to you?
Exactly. It's about feeling passionate and involved in your work, like you're not just going through the motions.
It's like being excited to wake up on Monday morning.
Okay.
Maybe not excited, but at least content.
Huh. Yeah, but you get the idea. Dr. Crotaz has been developing this approach for like almost 20 years, especially to help people who feel stuck or unfulfilled in their careers, those searching for a bigger purpose, or those with big goals, or even just those trying to figure out their next move.
So it sounds like this 6-week program is like a deep dive into you and what you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
The goal is to figure out what you're naturally good at, and then use that to map out a career path that actually excites you. One that fulfills different needs, not just the financial one.
Right. It's about creating clear action steps to actually get there. It's not just daydreaming. It's about taking ownership and having confidence in your ability to make it happen.
And in the end, it's about feeling at peace, knowing you're on the right track.
Exactly. It's about aligning your inner truth with your outer actions. So to really understand where this framework came from, Dr. Crotaz tells us his own story. It's actually kind of fascinating. He talks about leaving medicine after 8 years of studying and practicing. Can you imagine, like, dedicating that much time to something and then realizing it's not the right fit?
It's like investing all that time and energy and then having to hit the reset button.
It takes serious courage. And his story shows us that sometimes the path we think we should be on isn't the one that truly aligns with who we are. When he switched to the business world, he discovered new strengths and found a new sense of purpose. It shows you that our career identity isn't fixed.
Right. Like we can change and evolve. And it wasn't just his personal journey that influenced him. He mentored medical students going through the same kind of doubts. And he also worked as a strategy consultant for almost a decade, helping companies figure out their purpose, their values, their strategic goals.
Oh, so he was asking those same questions, but on a company level, like where are you now? Where do you want to be? How will you get there? And what do you need to do today? And then he realized he could apply that same thinking to individual careers.
Makes sense. And get this, he was also pursuing amateur ballroom, dancing with his wife, Midri, whom he met through work.
Wow, so he's got this whole other passion outside of medicine and business.
Yeah, he loved dancing as a kid, but put it aside during his medical training. Meeting Midri reignited that passion, and they went all in, like practicing intensely and competing at a national level.
So it's like they had this whole other side hustle. They were really dedicated.
They saw quick progress at first, but after about 4 years of dancing together, they hit a wall. They were putting in the time, effort, money, even top-notch coaching every weekend, practicing 6 nights a week. But their competition results just weren't improving. They were stuck.
I can totally relate to that feeling. Like you're putting in so much work but not seeing the results. It can be super frustrating.
And they were making sacrifices too. They're demanding jobs, their personal time, their evenings, weekends. Everything was geared towards dancing. And it wasn't like they lacked passion. It was their approach that wasn't working anymore.
It's a good reminder that just doing more of the same doesn't always guarantee success. Sometimes you need a new strategy, a new direction.
Absolutely. They weren't ready to give up on their dance dream, but they knew something had to change. And that's when Team Diablo came into the picture.
Ah, Team Diablo. I've heard of them. They're like this elite training club in Italy, right?
Yeah,
Bologna.
exactly. And they have a reputation for attracting some of the best dancers in the world, but they weren't that well known, especially in the UK dance scene.
Like they were this hidden gem. Even though they trained world champions, there wasn't a ton of info online or buzz about them. It was more word of mouth.
But Dr. Crotaz and Midri knew and trusted dancers who would train there. And they knew Team Diablo was the real deal. The problem was the logistics. They lived in London with demanding jobs, working 50-plus hours a week. And Team Diablo trained in Italy every day and competed across Europe every weekend.
Yikes. That's a lot to juggle.
It seemed impossible. Quitting their jobs to train full-time wasn't financially feasible. On paper, it just didn't add up.
But they were at this crossroads, right? Either stay comfortable but unfulfilled or take a huge risk. So they went for it.
Which was kind of out of character for them. They weren't big risk takers. But their passion for dance was that strong. They were determined to push their limits. So Midri called Davide Cacciari, the head of Team Diablo. And you know what he said? Come and see. Just like that. He didn't even know them, but he invited them to experience it firsthand.
Wow, talk about a leap of faith.
And it was a game changer. When they arrived at the training center, Davide's first words were, "The hardest step for any social dancer is walking through the door of our training center. Because you are here, I already know you are determined to change."
That's powerful. He saw their commitment right away.
They fully immersed themselves in the training. It wasn't easy. They became experts in budget travel, catching early flights to far-off airports, figuring out public transport, staying in basic accommodations. They were stretching their limits financially and logistically.
Talk about dedication. They were all in.
And the training environment was incredible. It was this blend of Italian and Russian approaches. Davide, with his Italian background, emphasized elegance, artistry, technique, and competition. And his Russian wife, Olga, brought in discipline, rigor, excellence, and determination.
That's an intense combo.
Their days were packed, from 8 a.m. to midnight sometimes. Private lessons, group classes, individual practice, fitness and endurance training, nutrition lectures, even simulated competitions every night with detailed feedback.
Wow, no time to slack off.
Language wasn't a big barrier either. Instructions were translated from Italian to English for the international dancers.
So everyone was on the same page.
And what's interesting is that everyone was expected to fully commit. It wasn't just for beginners. Even dancers who were already world champions had to participate in every part of the program. And the setting. This small village north of Bologna created this really focused environment, like they were away from all the city distractions.
Sounds almost like a dance retreat. Intense but focused.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And the local community was supportive too, like they'd cheer on the dancers. It was cool. They had fellow students from all over the world, all dedicated to dance. It was a special vibe.
I bet. And how were the competitions?
Weekends were often spent traveling across Europe for competitions, sometimes in unreliable buses. But despite the crazy schedule and travel, the club consistently produced top-ranked dancers. They were winning national and world championships all the time.
It must have been doing something right.
Right. The training hall was filled with trophies, a constant reminder of their success. That whole experience completely changed their approach to dancing and their outlook on achieving goals. It was transformative.
So it wasn't just about learning new steps. It was about adopting a whole new mindset.
It's exactly. Dr. Crotaz emphasizes how Davide really pushed them to think differently. Their old idea of physical fitness for dance was blown out of the water. They went from training for like 5-7 routines to having to do 30-40 in a row.
Whoa! That's a huge jump.
Yeah, and they learned these tortura exercises. Super challenging, but effective.
Tortura. Sounds intense.
Oh, it was. But it wasn't just about pushing their physical limits. They learned new, more sophisticated techniques and revamped their choreography. They focus on highlighting their strengths instead of trying to fix every little weakness. Davide would always say, why show the judges what you were not good at? It was a good lesson.
Show off what you're good at. I like that. Did anything else change?
Yeah, they shifted from mostly individual competition to being part of a supportive team structure.
Yeah.
It was a whole different dynamic. They learned that this club system was pretty common among top dancers.
Interesting. So it's not just about individual talent. It's about the support system, too.
Totally. And hearing stories from other dancers about their sacrifices, like this Dutch couple who drive all night across Europe for a competition and then go straight to work the next morning.
Right.
It made them realize their own limits were self-imposed. They could push themselves further than they thought.
It's amazing how seeing other people's dedication can inspire you to step up your own game.
Right. And Davida's perspective on perfection was eye-opening too. He'd tell them not to worry about what others thought, to trust their own abilities and focus on their own journey.
That's so important. It's easy to get caught up in seeking external validation.
It really is. They learned the power of preparation, commitment, confidence, and trusting their gut. They transformed into these confident dancers with their own unique style. And the best part, these positive changes weren't just limited to dancing. Colleagues at work noticed their newfound determination and clarity too.
It's like their dance journey spilled over into other areas of their lives.
Yeah. They went on to represent the UK at World and European Championships as amateurs and later as professionals. And they even achieved their dream of competing at the Moscow World Championships. It was a wild ride.
It's a great example of how passion, hard work, and a supportive environment can lead to incredible achievements.
And this whole dance career really ties into those principles of engagement and authenticity in the IDEA framework.
It's like their dance journey became a metaphor for their approach to life and work.
Exactly. And as their dance career naturally wound down, Dr. Crotaz started thinking about how to apply those lessons to his next chapter. He retired from professional dancing in 2013 at the age of 37.
Wow, so young.
Yeah.
Why the early retirement?
His body couldn't keep up. 2 knee surgeries and the prospect of a third. It was time.
Makes sense. But it must have been tough emotionally, especially for his wife, who could have continued dancing longer.
It was a big transition for both of them.
Yeah.
But they had all these amazing experiences and achievements to draw on. They were ready to apply that mindset to their future.
So what was his next move? How did he figure out what to do next?
He started by identifying his core values, the things that were absolutely essential for him to feel fulfilled in his work.
Like non-negotiables.
Exactly. He wanted to have a tangible impact on the world. He wanted control over his direction. He wanted to use his skills and explore new possibilities. He loved coaching and mentoring. And he was passionate about sharing the IDEA thinking with others.
Those are some solid anchors.
Yeah.
And they're directly aligned with the IDEA principles. It's like he was unconsciously using the framework to guide his own career transition.
Right. Impact and skill utilization are all about identity and engagement. Control and exploration are about direction, and coaching, mentoring, and sharing the IDEA thinking. That's all about authenticity and purpose.
It all comes full circle.
Yeah.
So how did he feel about this new direction? Was he nervous like when he left medicine?
Nope, not at all. He felt clear, confident, and excited about the future. No anxiety or self-doubt. He was ready to dive in.
That's amazing. It shows how much self-awareness and having a clear framework can change your whole approach to career transitions.
Totally.
Hmm.
And he consciously used those anchors to shape his next steps. He took on leadership roles in a big retail business, applying the high-performance mindset and strategic thinking he'd learned from dancing. He focused on creating a supportive and challenging environment for his teams and fostering a growth mindset.
Sounds like he brought a bit of that Team Diablo energy to his work.
Huh, maybe. His coaching style also changed. He encouraged people to go for opportunities that seemed impossible at first. He was all about pushing boundaries.
And did his own confidence grow too?
Definitely. He got better at time management and saying no to things that didn't align with his values. He even started doing more unpaid work that had a bigger impact. It was a shift in priorities. He also went back to school after 15 years to become a certified executive coach and then started writing this book.
So the IDA framework was always in the back of his mind.
Yeah, it was a gradual process. He was internalizing and formalizing those principles over time. And then in 2018, he officially launched the IDA program. It's a series of structured exercises designed to help his coaching clients connect with those core IDA principles and develop strong action plans for their careers.
So he took all those lessons from his own life and turned them into a program to help others.
And it focuses on understanding your identity and setting a clear direction. But it also has activities that help you build engagement, authenticity, a strong sense of values and resilience. And it emphasizes personal accountability.
Sounds pretty comprehensive.
It is. And he's seen amazing results with his clients. They've made big career changes, gained tons of confidence, found their purpose, and have way less regret about their careers.
That's awesome. So what's the key takeaway from all this?
That you have the power to shape your own career narrative. Don't wait for things to happen. Make them happen.
It's like that quote by Steve Maraboli. This is my life, my story, my book. I will no longer let anyone else write it, nor will I apologize for the edits I make.
Exactly. Yes. Take ownership. And Dr. Crotaz's vision is to reach even more people with this IDA framework. He wants everyone to have that clarity and confidence to build fulfilling careers.
And that's where the book comes in, right?
Yeah. It's packed with exercises based on his IDEA program. He wants readers to have those same aha moments his clients had. The book is about creating a plan for your ideal career and discovering your own IDEA thinking.
So it's not just a guide, it's a journey of self-discovery.
Exactly. And he hopes readers will walk away feeling clear, satisfied, and accomplished.
So how does this 6-week journey work?
The first 2 weeks are all about understanding your motivations and building a vision for your future career. It's about exploring who you are professionally, what your values are, what your talents are. It's about figuring out your identity and direction.
Okay, so it starts with the internal stuff, laying the groundwork.
Exactly. You'll also learn how to align your work with your values and purpose, which is key for authenticity. Then the next 4 weeks are about the practical stuff. How to achieve those career goals, whether that's a complete career change, freelancing a portfolio career, switching roles, or going for promotion.
So that's where the engagement piece comes in, taking action.
Yeah. And you'll learn how to use your strengths and deal with those inevitable challenges and setbacks that come with any big change. He talks about how to stay motivated and build a supportive network.
Because let's be real, change is hard. It's good to have support.
Totally. And
really?
By the end of the 6 weeks, you should have a solid action plan that connects your current situation with your dream future.
And hopefully a strong sense of your own idea thinking.
Exactly.
Right.
But he emphasizes that your idea thinking isn't like a certificate or a badge. It's something that happens internally. It's about personal growth and transformation.
It's like a shifting perspective that empowers you to make real changes.
And that new perspective, combined with your action plan, gives you the momentum to move forward. He also acknowledges that the journey won't always be easy or straightforward, but he reassures you that your values, your purpose, and the new skills and routines you develop will guide you along the way.
It's like building your own internal compass.
And he's very clear about this. No one else can define your vision, your purpose, or your plan. It's all you. You have to take ownership.
Which brings us to the importance of writing in this whole process. The book has tons of space for reflection exercises and journaling. It's about getting those thoughts and feelings out on paper.
And he even suggests using a pencil.
Yeah.
Because you're going to change your mind, revise things as you go. It's all part of the process.
I like that. It's about embracing the messiness of growth.
He also talks about giving your brain space and time to really process all these ideas. This book isn't meant to be skimmed. Real change takes time and reflection. He's not a fan of those quick-fix self-improvement fads. They're like crash diets, not sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, you can't just hack your way to personal growth.
The weekly structure is flexible. Some weeks might take an hour, others might take several. It depends on the exercises and how deep you want to go. He even suggests discussing some of the exercises with friends or colleagues to get their perspectives.
Oh, that's a good idea. Sometimes it helps to bounce ideas off of others.
But he stresses that the most important thing is the thinking time. It's not always about sitting at your desk with the book. It's about letting your mind wander and process those questions, even when you're doing other things.
Like letting those ideas simmer. I love that analogy.
And even though there's a weekly structure, he says, don't rush or pause for too long. Find a pace that works for you and celebrate your progress each week. Small wins matter.
So before we dive into the specifics, let's pause and reflect. What's resonating with you so far? What's standing out?
Yeah, and why? What's sparking your curiosity?
Now, I know some of you might be feeling overwhelmed or maybe a little lost. Like, where do I even start? Dr. Crotaz gets that. He knows it can be daunting.
He reassures you that you're not alone. A lot of people are feeling this way, especially post-pandemic. There's this big shift happening. People are reevaluating their careers. They want more flexibility, a more human-centered workplace. They want to feel authentic.
It's like the old rules don't apply anymore.
Exactly. But while knowing others are in the same boat might be comforting, it doesn't solve the problem. You still need clarity and confidence to make those changes.
And that's what this book is all about, giving you the tools to figure things out.
And the key is to start small. Don't try to change everything at once. Just take those first steps. It's like dipping your toes in the water before jumping in.
Makes sense. But how do you actually put this idea thinking into practice?
By taking action, Dr. Crotaz emphasizes that doing something is way more effective than just thinking about it. He uses his experience with Team Diablo as an example. It was a huge leap of faith, but it led to incredible growth.
So it's about being brave and stepping outside your comfort zone.
And he reminds you that you have untapped talents and potential. You're not stuck. You have the ability to change. He even gives examples of people like Giorgio Armani, John Legend, Philip Pullman, and Vera Wang. They all made major career switches and found success.
Wow. So it's possible to reinvent yourself at any age. Inspiring.
And he quotes Marshall Goldsmith, who said, "The grass isn't greener on the other side of the fence. It's greener where you water it."
I love that. So it's not just about finding the perfect job. It's about making the most of what you have and taking action.
And to help you figure out what to water, Dr. Crotaz introduces those 4 elements of the IDEA framework. He uses this analogy of the career board game, where you have to make choices about money, fame, and happiness. You can't always have it all, so you have to decide what's most important to you.
So it's like figuring out your priorities.
Exactly. And that's where the IDEA framework comes in. It helps you define what matters most to you in your career.
Oh.
So let's break down those 4 elements.
Okay, let's do it.
First up, identity. It's about having a deep understanding of your ideal career path and who you are professionally.
Okay, so like knowing your strengths, your values, what you're good at.
Exactly. Second is direction. It's about knowing how to get to that ideal career, having a clear path forward. Third is engagement. It's about feeling passionate and involved in your work, being excited to show up every day.
Or at least not dreading it. And lastly, authenticity. It's about aligning your actions and choices with your values and your life purpose, making sure your work feels meaningful.
Right. And Dr. Crotaz says that a lot of his clients struggle with one or more of these elements.
Makes sense. It's a lot to juggle.
So let's dive a bit deeper into each one, starting with identity. It's all about self-awareness, knowing your values, your strengths, and how others perceive you.
Right, like do people see you the way you see yourself? That's important.
He gives some examples of statements that indicate a strong or weak sense of identity. Like someone with a strong sense of identity might say, "I love my work and I chose this path," or "It's no surprise I find this fulfilling because it uses my strengths."
And someone who's struggling with their identity might say, "I have no idea what I'm good at," or "I'm shocked with my team thinks I micromanage. Maybe I'm not a good leader."
Next is direction. It's about having a clear vision of your career goals and knowing how to get there.
So like having a roadmap, knowing which turns to take.
Exactly. Someone with a strong sense of direction might say, "My goal is to start my own company in 5 years," or "I turned down that international job because it didn't align with my long-term goals."
And someone who's lacking direction might say, "I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to come along," or "I'm so busy putting out fires, I don't have time to think about my future."
Then there's engagement. It's about feeling passionate and involved in your work, feeling a sense of accomplishment.
Like you're actually making a difference.
Right. Someone with high engagement might say, I'm excited about the projects I'm working on, or I love collaborating with my team.
And someone with low engagement might say the classic, ugh, it's Monday, or I can't think of anything I'm proud of at work.
And finally, authenticity. It's about making sure your actions are aligned with your values and your life purpose. Do you feel passionate about your work?
Do you feel like you're living in alignment with your true self?
Exactly. Someone with strong authenticity might say, I can clearly explain why I'm doing this work, or helping people in meaningful ways is what drives me.
And someone struggling with authenticity might say, I'm only doing this for the money, or I have ethical concerns about my company, but I don't feel like speaking up.
And Dr. Crotaz makes it clear that this book isn't based on some groundbreaking new research. It's about using proven strategies in a new way.
So it's like taking those tried and true methods and putting them together in a way that really works.
The goal is to make you think, grow, and change. And he believes in keeping things simple. He quotes Einstein, who said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough.
So even though change can be tough, the idea thinking itself should be easy to grasp and apply.
And the starting point is reflection. He has this looking in the mirror exercise, where you really examine yourself. Not just your physical appearance, but who you are at your core.
Which can be uncomfortable for a lot of people. We're not always used to looking inward.
He compares a coach to someone who holds up a mirror for their clients, creating a safe space for them to see themselves clearly. And he says that initial discomfort is totally normal, but it's important to push through it. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And he quotes this Taoist saying, we cannot see our reflection in running water. It is only in still water that we can see.
That's a good one. It shows how important stillness and reflection are for self-awareness. And then he has this simple exercise. Look in the mirror and write down the first 6 words that come to mind.
Interesting. I'm going to try that.
Now, Dr. Crotaz knows that starting any kind of change can be hard. It's easier when you're completely unhappy with your current situation and you don't have a lot of obstacles in your way. But what if you're kind of okay with things and there are tons of barriers?
That's when it gets tricky. It's easy to stay stuck.
He says we tend to focus on the problems and all the reasons why we can't change. And sometimes that's because of negative self-talk or messages we've internalized from authority figures.
It's like those voices in our heads telling us we're not good enough or we can't do it.
He suggests a way to reframe that. Instead of focusing on the limitations, focus on the possibilities and your strengths. Ask yourself, imagine if I, or I wonder if I could. It's about shifting your perspective.
I like that, turning those can'ts into coulds.
He even mentions this inspiring YouTube talk by Benjamin Zander, where he talks about the power of possibility. And the key takeaway is that taking that first step, even a tiny one, is crucial. And reading this book is a great first step.
It's a sign that you're ready for change.
And to guide you on this journey, he outlines a 6-step process. It's all about increasing your self-awareness, planning for the future, and building a personal narrative around those idea principles. He compares it to baking a cake. You have to follow the steps in order.
So it's about having a structure, a roadmap.
Each step has exercises, questions, inspiring stories, ideas, and tools. But he emphasizes that thinking time is more important than reading or writing. It's about letting those ideas simmer.
I'm really liking this cooking metaphor. It's like you're creating something delicious, a fulfilling career.
And to keep you moving forward, he has these power actions, 2 per week. They're tasks designed to give you momentum.
So it's not just about reading and reflecting, it's about taking action.
And get this, each week also has a recommended soundtrack, 3 songs you can find on YouTube. He believes in the power of music to evoke emotions.
I'm all about that. Music can be so powerful.
He even suggests when to listen to each song, before reading, during exercises, and after reflecting.
That's a nice touch. It's like setting the mood for each stage of the journey.
So here's a quick overview of what each week focuses on. Week 1 is Know Yourself. It's all about identity, your values, your strengths, your priorities. It also introduces journaling and the habit of making progress every day.
Sounds like a good foundation.
Week 2 is Set the Course. It's about building on your self-identity and developing a sense of direction. This is where you define your vision, your purpose, and your goals.
So like figuring out where you want to go and why.
Week 3 is Prepare Body and Mind for Change. It's about building resilience, taking care of your physical health through sleep, diet, and exercise, and fostering positivity.
So it's about taking care of yourself holistically, because change can be stressful.
Week 4 is Create Your Action Plan. You'll define specific actions, figure out who can help you create a timetable, and make an irreversible commitment.
Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road, turning those ideas into a plan.
Week 5 is stay the course. It's about preparing for success, observing emotional changes, and learning how to stay motivated even when things get tough.
Because it's not always going to be easy. There will be bumps in the road.
And week 6 is tell your story. You'll craft your narrative practice talking about your journey, update your online profiles, and start networking.
So putting yourself out there and sharing your new vision with the world.
Exactly. It's a pretty comprehensive journey. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, just remember to start small. As Jim Rohn said, success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day.
Small steps lead to big changes.
So before we move on to week 1, let's take a minute to reflect. Why did you pick up this book? What's the one thing you